To wracamy do akcji. Musimy sobie upolować tych zbiegłych Daltonów. Zobaczymy, jak to będzie. Szło. Moment. To trzeba wysadzić. Okej.
It was early fall, right? Beautiful time of year. At least you had the weather on your side.
Not by my recollection. It was damp and foggy as
Jest
hell.
nasze
It
towarzystwo.
was tough to stay on a true course, so we kept an eye out for landmarks. It was autumn. The maple trees were in full color, red as blood. The rains that year were torrential.
Zawsze jak takie bagna się pokazują, to ja odczuwam taki klimacik jak na tych bagnistych mapach w Left 4 Dead. W drugiej części chyba były takie bagna. Dobre lokacje w ogóle. Tam były zawsze zrobione, jeżeli chodzi o mapki, to było mistrzostwo. Okej, rozgrzewka.
I wondered why my compatriots didn't come running when they heard the shots.
So did you find the Daltons?
Not yet, but I did have the questionable pleasure of meeting a few of their friends. The boys had established quite a reputation by that time, so they attracted all manner of riffraff to their cause. You ain't beat me.
Nie mam nic, słuchajcie. Trochę lipa. Ach, tu tak mam amunicję. No dobra. Ale broń to jednak weźmy sobie rangery, chyba są najfajniejsze. Do reszty broni to już nie ma aż takiego znaczenia. O. O.
Was nowhere to be seen.
No. Dynamity latają. Dobra. Trzeba przejść do przodu. O. A skąd to strzała? Halo? Tutaj. Ja powiedzieć, że się chowają, ale to ja się chowam. Hej.
But luckily, a barn materialized as if right before my eyes. I scrambled up top to get a better view, but just ended up falling inside.
So, how did you get out?
The barn doors was open. About right then, I saw some suspicious characters running for the bushes. Of course, I followed them. But that goddamn swamp was like a goddamn maze, and pretty soon I had no goddamn idea where I was. Steve? So I just started walking, and pretty soon... Steve? Steve?
Huh? Oh, no, I'm listening.
Indians surrounded me from all sides.
There were Indians?
No. I just wanted to make sure Steve was paying attention. Now, where was I?
You were following the Daltons through a swamp?
That's right. See, Steve? Dwight's paying attention.
No, I'm listening. I was just resting my eyes.
So, where was I?
The Daltons.
Right. See, there's a reason so many outlaw gangs are made up of brothers.
So did you ever find the damn Daltons?
Not yet, but I did find a few of their cousins. You Kansans breed like rabbits. Or Smiths or Heimhoffers or who knows what.
O,
But hell, what's more important than family? I bet Ben knows what I'm talking about.
elegancko. W miarę. O. Ups. Misja na górze, to może sobie jednak uzupełnić. Okej.
I knew those Dalton boys were out there somewhere, standing together against anyone who would threaten them. And that's when I saw it. A goddamn steamboat.
A steamboat in a swamp?
Yeah, Steve, but this wasn't much more than a wreck, really.
But how'd a damn steamboat end up in the swamps? Guess it floated off during the flood of '89.
Now, was it a stern wheeler or a side wheeler?
What? Does that really make a difference, Steve? It was a steamboat with a goddamn army on board. It was in that a fusillade of bullets come raining down from on high, and those vigilantes who accompanied me weren't anywhere to be found. But among those men that were shooting at me, I thought I saw some familiar faces.
Aj. Dziury w tych deskach. No nic. No to jeszcze raz. Aj. Dobra. Chyba trochę ogarnięty temat.
Somewhere up there, the Daltons were waiting on me.
Przejdziemy sobie na obrzęd. Co wy na to? Skoro już tu jesteśmy w pobliżu. W sensie na CQB. O! Jakiś twardy. Ale ten obrzęd taki lewy.
Sounds like you don't give up too easy.
That's the kind of man I am. I set out to do something. I do it. Surrender just ain't in my nature. Plus, I'm stubborn as hell.
No to trup. Co ten rewolwer się to lepiej sprawdził. Jednak nie ma co narzekać. Chyba żyj z konsekwencjami swoich wyborów. Chyba, że... No nie, już tutaj nie zmieni. Quickshotter możemy wziąć. No już nie będzie.
Right about then, much to my relief, the vigilantes finally arrived. Their leader motioned at a cabin in the middle of the top deck, pointing me directly at the Daltons. I finally had them, after months of dogged pursuit. But it turned out that they had me.
Take him out! I'm sending you to hell!
The Daltons had played me like a fiddle. Apparently, the vigilantes were on their damn payroll. They didn't just want to shoot me. They wanted to burn me alive. But finding my way out of a burning labyrinth proved to be quite a challenge.
It was a riverboat, right? I mean, it's not like it was a goddamn ocean liner.
Well, yeah, but I was in a
Did you
fight.
hear about that ship that's gonna launch next year? Largest one in the world.
You're talking about the Titanic. If you ask me, it's too blessed big. I don't think it'll even float.
So anyway,
Don't be stupid, Steve. They know what they're doing. They say that the Titanic is unsinkable.
oh God,
But getting back to that steamboat, how'd you get off it, Mr. Breeze?
I took in a lot of smoke that day, so I admit my recollection might be a bit hazy. But somehow I managed to finally disembark. I was coughing up smoke and pretty damn pissed. I was done playing games with those boys. It was time to settle this once and for all.
Sekcja celowniczkowa. Tutaj też się slow-mo przyda, bo weź to ich wszystkich wypaść w tym błocie.
To come at me one at a time. They were in this together. Two brothers side by side, determined to take me down. Confident that this time the odds were on their side.
Nie będzie takie proste. Ty mały gnoju. I co, od małego zaczynamy? No dobra, jednak mały jest większym zagrożeniem. Niech tak będzie. To już źle zacząłem, to może być słabo. Unik w złą stronę poszedł.
They got it wrong. A sad end for those two. If they'd only known that Emmett was still alive despite his wounds, paroled 14 years later. He moved to California and sold real estate and lived off the legend of that fateful day. And the tragic death of his two brothers. My own brothers died tragically as well, truth be told. It was 1868, and me and my older brothers were pulling a tidy profit running cattle into Juarez, Mexico. One night after my brothers retired for the evening, I found a little poker game in a cantina with a couple of cowboys. And I just couldn't lose. I even won an old Spanish coin that had to be 100 years old. Well, I was mighty pleased with myself the next morning as my brothers and I rode for Texas. But before we crossed the border, those cowboys caught up with us. It was Johnny Ringo, Roscoe Bob Bryant, and another asshole named Jim. They wanted their money back and everything else we had, including our lives, as those boys didn't want us coming for them later. Bob put that old Spanish coin in my mouth and said, "I won't have it said that I left you with nothing, boy." Well, those horses bolted, and there we hung as those bastards rode away. The branch finally snapped under the weight of the three of us, but being my older brothers were bigger and heavier, they were already dead. And right then I swore to myself that I would avenge them. Ringo you know about. But Bob eluded me, until I heard he was riding with the Wild Bunch.
Dobra, Silasowi udało ci się dopełnić tej zemsty.
I'd been on their trail for months, ever since they left their hideout in the Bighorn
No
Mountains.
dobra. Mamy broń do wyboru jakąś? Mamy.
Led by Butch Cassidy.
Chętnie wymienię.
We're a loose
Halo.
association of outlaws who robbed banks and trains from Colorado to Montana. Among them was the Sundance Kid and that murderous hombre I was tracking.
Dobra, ale jednak
Roscoe
karabin
Bob
zabezpieczonego.
Bryant.
O, dobra.
You were part of that giant Pinkerton posse after the Wild Bunch?
No, boy. A circus like that would have slowed me down. Besides, I wanted Bryant all to myself. I'd heard about a large
Jesteśmy w
shipment
terenie,
of
to
gold
polatamy sobie teraz ze strzelbą.
Wilcox,
Zobaczymy jak to
Wyoming on the Overland Flyer.
będzie szło.
I figured
Czy
the
ze
Wild
strzelbą z
Bunch
karabinem.
would likely hit such a treasure, and by God, I figured right. They blew the bridge with the intention of forcing the train to stop. Well, I assumed the Wild Bunch was likely in the still intact part of the train high above. So I had no choice but to make my way up through the passenger cars dangling down. I was determined to make that sumbitch Bob pay for what he did to my brothers.
No dobra. Już amunicja? Przecież tam wcześniej też.
Ears are still ringing from blowing up that bridge.
Well, I made my way off unscathed and came upon a few members of the gang and had no choice but to dispatch them. From there, I had to negotiate an even more precarious route. But first, I would need to get my ass out of there. I jumped from the frying pan into the fire as the train was clearly fixing to fall. I had found the gang, but in order to find old Bob, I needed to fight my way forward past a whole passel of desperados. Outside, inside, any way I could, I made my way towards my prey.
Well, what about the passengers?
It was mostly a freight train, as I recall. There were no passengers aboard that day.
Dobra. Idziemy
As I
tutaj.
mentioned before, I am not fond of heights. But I was too busy dodging bullets to worry about falling to my death. Odds were I was likely to die that day anyway. So I was determined to take down as many of those bastards as I could. At times it was like shooting ducks in a shooting gallery. The only difference is these damn ducks shot back.
Dobra, miejscowa, żeby się skampić, panowie, pośród tych beczek wybuchowych.
I kept hoping the law would show up and give me a
You
hand.
mean like that giant Pinkerton posse that I read about? Did they come riding in, guns a-blazing to help?
Joe Lefos, TJF Cole, Tim Kennedy, Butch Cassidy. Wielka obława kontra dzika banda.
Help? From the Pinkertons? No, son. I had to fight the Wild Bunch all by my lonesome, as usual.
O. O. Twardziel ze strzelbami to niebezpieczne typy. Okej.
My guess is those dime novels didn't portray this as it happened, did they? Only a few stragglers were left. I had to cut them down pronto if I was going to stay on old Bob's trail.
Przez przypadek w sumie zszedłem z tego Gatlinga niepotrzebnie. I taki był plan. Ale żyjemy, to git.
Once I silenced all those guns, I went searching for my nemesis, determined to finally have my justice. But the only survivor who welcomed me was George Flat-Nosed Curry.
Who was he?
The fastest gun in the gang. Right after Sundance, I mean. And Kid Curry, and maybe Elsie Lay. Though some folks might dispute that. On that very same day, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid decided to leave the Wild Bunch behind and decamped for South America.
Tutaj na luzie poszło.
They ended up living down there for many years, but I'm sure you already know all about that.
Pewnie te loadingi coraz dłuższe.
I tried to find Bob Bryant, but it was as if
Gdzie ten quick shooter zabierać mi?
Sometime later I heard the Wild Bunch was back together. Kid Curry escaped from jail and now he was running the whole shebang. So I took to their trail. Because I was still in pursuit of my brother's killer and hoped that he was back with him.
That Kid Curry's kinda crazy, ain't he?
Don't let him hear you saying that.
Anyways, I tracked those boys to a camp right outside Parachute, Colorado. Being outnumbered, I didn't bother with a warning shot.
Myślałem, że to trochę po snajpie, ale chyba
Bastards down.
niekoniecznie. Ile
Old
beczek tu
Bob
wychowało?
wasn't among them, and neither was Kid Curry. I could sense him close by, however, plotting something nasty. I just needed a clue as to their whereabouts. And I found one. A map with their bold plan clearly marked. This time they were fixing to blow up a train trestle. Property of the Union Pacific. The plan clearly indicated how they were fixing to undermine several of the weakest wooden supports. Kid Curry was considered the wildest of the wild bunch. It was said that he fathered 85 bastard children, though some say it was only 5. Kid Curry had bragged to a whore how he was gonna rob a train heading to the U.S. Mint in Denver. And that whore, Fat Sally, she told me. The bridge was rigged with dynamite, so I decided I'd best be careful confronting those bastards. A moment later, I saw a ladder that somehow had escaped my attention.
Don't you blow us up now.
Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. It appeared the
Trzeba
kid
ten
had
dynamit
found a
uważać, żeby go nie
number of
wysadzić.
recruits to bolster their ranks. But the Wild Bunch did not take kindly to my presence and attempted to blow my head off.
What happened next?
Well, having removed the first bundle of dynamite, I decided I might as well remove the other one. Once that was done, I figured I'd find my way from there.
Co taki mocny? Pancerny strzelec.
So, what happened then?
Had to remove more of that damn dynamite.
It must have been terrifying trying to make your way across.
I was sweating it a bit, but then I noticed a footbridge tied up on high, so I shot the rope.
So that was all the dynamite?
It's funny you should mention that, darling. As actually there was a fourth charge impeding my progress. Once I removed it, my path was pretty clear.
Okej. Znośnie. Ja to beczki aż się proszą o to, żeby w nie postrzelać, ale raczej nie możemy.
I realized that that way just wasn't gonna work. I needed an alternate path forward. Luckily, I found a cave, and as I made my way back to the bridge, I saw something that concerned me. It was a long burning fuse, and it was moving fast as hell. I had to catch it. The burning fuse was so damn quick, I had to run like the wind. I almost had it, but no. Thought I was gonna have a coronary when I lost sight of those sparks. My heart was pounding like a sledgehammer. I knew that failure meant boom. Then, finally, at the last moment. Whew. Of course, I was successful, or clearly I wouldn't be talking to you folks here today. Naturally, I removed the last dynamite charge. Well, it was a touching reunion. But by this time, I was thoroughly exhausted and dragging my ass, as I was not a young man anymore.
Kill that SUV! Make him bleed! Send him to perdition!
Finally, I found those boys. Or more precisely, they found me.
These places Kid Curry asked me! Higher than a damn fruitcake!
Ale te rewolwery zamają.
Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, Kid Curry opened up on me with a goddamn Gatling gun. It was hidden in this tunnel and pretty well shielded.
That's it for you!
Kid Curry. Okej. Chyba, że tego opisu nie ma. Taki śmieć. No dobra.
Luckily, I had located some dynamite. I still, however, had my work cut out for me.
This is the last mistake you'll ever make!
No.
Heads up! Here! Come on, boys! Take this
O,
stuff!
ja. No i gitara.
Hold him off while I reload! Yeah! That smells like a tear! Feed fat bastard! You're gonna bleed! Give me a hand here, goddammit!
Eventually, I brought that
Jeszcze?
tunnel down. That's when I met Kid Curry himself. He had decided to stop pussyfooting around and deal with me personally. As fast as he was, I was just a bit faster.
Byłeś
And as
bardzo
he
szybki
lay
tym razem,
wounded, I
Silas. Prawie na
demanded to know the
100%.
whereabouts of Roscoe Bob Bryant. He shouted at me. Is that what this is about? Bob went with Butch and Sundance to South America. You ain't never finding him. Those were his last words.
Taka mała celność, a myślałem, że byłem dość celny tym razem. No ale okej.
So, Bob Bryant got away?
I knew I'd never find him in South America.
What about the other killer?
Yeah, you kind of glossed over that one.
Well, I found Jim not long after my showdown with Ringo. At the time, he was riding with the James Younger gang. Did I neglect to mention that?
Jesse James.
Jesse James? The greatest outlaw who ever lived?
Jesse and his kin rode with Quantrill when he raided Lawrence, Kansas, and killed near 200 people, boy.
Nothing great about that.
And from there, him and his brother went on to rob banks and trains from Kansas to Missouri.
Which is why there was such a rich bounty on their heads. 40 grand for both of them, dead or alive. That's one hell of a payday.
To kolejny pociąg do przebiegnięcia będzie? Ciekawe.
Bullets were flying at me from every which way. But I knew I'd have to fight my way forward if I was gonna find this Jim.
Ale troll.
How'd they stop this train in the first place?
Well, the James boys were experts at this.
Legenda głosi, że zatrzymane pociągi zatrzymywał samym spojrzeniem Jesse James.
They hopped a freight train having heard there was a big payroll in the express safe. So, I hopped the same train. The James Younger gang was decimated after that little fiasco they had in Northfield, Minnesota. So Jesse needed more men and took on the killer I was after, along with a host of others. I was hoping to find my man and put a bullet in his head. Climbing around that train, I must have swallowed 100 damn bugs before I reached
James
that.
Younger gang pulled the first train robbery west of the Mississippi.
Sounds like you hold them in high regard.
Everyone knows they were the most famous outlaw gang ever.
And you took them all on by your lonesome. Again, I'm finding this all a little hard to swallow, friend.
Well, maybe you need to wash it down with some whiskey. By the way, did I mention that that train was flying down those tracks like a bat out of hell?
O.
Anyway, excuse me, man. Where would I find the gentleman's facilities? Suddenly I have an urgent need to drain my one-eyed snake. Well, I've had more than a few drinks, and I've been sitting here for quite a spell.
Right through there. Let me show you. Never heard so much malarkey in my life.
You think he's bullshitting us?
You don't think he's Silas Greaves?
I think he's just some old drunk looking for some free liquor.
I don't know, Jack. I think I believe him. You don't think he met Jesse James?
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. That story makes no sense at all.
Jack.
I mean, you gotta be 2 bricks short of a load to believe that cock and bull story.
I don't agree.
Jack, lay off the
But
bar.
you seriously think that tired old man went toe-to-toe with Jesse James?
Well, that's better. Did I mention that this Jim was married to the infamous Belle Starr? Of course, I didn't learn that until later. Anyway, I made my way forward the best I could. Around the sides, over the roof. At some point, some bitch saw me and shouted out, "It's the damn Pinkertons!" Now, I never worked for that limey cocksucker, but I guess they assumed I was one of his assassins. Those evil bastards firebombed Jesse's mother's house and killed his stepbrother. It was no wonder each and every asshole on that train wanted me dead.
Everybody's always mistaking you for somebody else, aren't they? Why is that, I wonder?
Don't rightly know, Jack. I'm just telling you how I remember it.
I bet you are.
Nie wystarczyło fokusu na taką akcję. Okay.
I came across a flat car piled high with logs and had to come up with a creative way to make my way forward. I wondered if I was ever going to find the front of that train, or the bastard I was after. Right about then, I was attacked by some asshole on a Gatling gun.
Yeah, seems like you run into a lot of them.
Asshole?
Gatling guns.
Yes, I did. Now, I don't remember how I took it out. It was either a bullet or dynamite.
Where would you find dynamite?
Does it really matter, Jack? You're messing with the flow of the story here.
No. Spokój, spokój.
I was looking for Jim and shooting any son of a bitch stupid enough to get in my way. And that included Jesse James himself.
A, to chyba na sam początek.
There were a lot of men determined to die that day. It was then that Jesse detached the express car from the rest of the damn train. I could see Jesse waiting for me, fixing to kill me so he could get away with all that money.
You had a showdown with Jesse James?
Of course he didn't. Everybody knows that Jesse was killed by Bob Ford. Yeah, Jesse went out like John Wesley Hardin. Coward shot him in the back of the head.
Guess it doesn't matter how far you run, does it, Ben? Your past always catches up with you. Yeah, I didn't kill Jesse James. Just wounded him bad enough to convince him to hang up his guns.
What about that Jim fella? What happened to him?
I figure he was up front with a gun to the engineer's head. That bastard slipped away again. I'll tell you how I got him. But first I need to wet my whistle. After my showdown with Jesse, I continued to track his brother, Frank, and that son of a bitch, Jim. I followed those bastards into the high mountains as they were going to ground.
What mountains would that be?
Somewhere in the Ozarks, I believe. The perfect place to hide out from the authorities.
Dobra. Dalsza część poszukiwań Jima już następnym razem. A teraz Harry Wederczy.